Well, there's no minute like the last minute. That's the best time to start a project. The old Plague has been sitting here in storage for, geez, at least 5 years or better. It's a sled that, it has a good purpose. Sometimes you just don't get around to using it for that purpose. First order of business, see if it's not at least seized up or something. Oh yeah, there she goes. It's got potential. Of course, it's sort of held captive by all this other junk. So we're slowly getting the extraction done here. Floor's a bit soft. I haven't been back into here for who knows when. There's the old 4-stroke Evinrude. Check out that box of conduit I found. This job's already paying dividends. This just keeps getting better. Bucket of rusty nails. It's getting there. Slowly. Glad I moved all that scrap before the snow fell on it. There it is in the light of dusk. Glorious. Well, if you're wondering why I dragged this pile out of the storage and into the shop, it's because I just got word that they're actually having a vintage snowcross race here, a couple hours away. And that is one type of a race that I have yet to do on these sleds, so I'm slightly excited about it. Might try and make it. A sled like this, I really don't have any cares about breaking anything on it. But that kind of leads to another problem. An increased chance of breaking myself on it. Bah, bah, bah. Technically it's been undercover, but it's still been semi-exposed to the elements. There was enough dirt and grunge built up on the running boards that plants were growing in it. There's the old riser I made out of plumbing parts. Now the funny thing about this sled, it was always surprisingly quick. And, fairly fast for what it was. Has the old Rotax 503 in it. Which I believe was actually not the original motor to this sled. It was taken out of a Blizzard MX 5500. Which those things are tanks. But the motor was in good shape, so that got swapped in at some point. And it used to launch hard. I mean, this thing was like a wheelie machine. And I ended up finding out that it's because of those fiber rollers they have in the square shaft clutch there. They were just flat spotted and worn out. So the clutch wouldn't engage until it revved up pretty high and bang in the engagement and off you go. Got the custom tunnel taper. I mean, it's got that professionally installed Yamaha seat. And that high travel suspension mod. This is one of the later builds I guess I had before I really got into actually trail riding and, racing on the side. So before when I'd, wait for the snow to get out and just play out in the field, this is what I'd hop on. Since I got into more trail riding and stuff, I had better stuff to do on the weekend, so this just kind of sat around. So one of the unique features of the Plague was that it just seems to thrive on abuse. So hopefully, if that's any indication of how things are going to go, I mean, just sitting neglected for, 5, 6, 7 years or so, that should actually be a tune-up for this thing, and hopefully it runs better than it ever has. Boy, the more I look at things now, some of this stuff's a safety hazard. Definitely got to clean up and de-sharpify some of these edges if I'm going to race it. I mean, some of the skis are cracked and need re-welded. Another thing I've learned is how important having those shocks up on those front skis are. If you're getting into some high-speed bumps or, moguls and stuff. Trying to keep that front end from bouncing or pogoing and throwing you off to one side. That's not a good time. Used to have some duct tape over those carbs covering them up at one point, but I don't know what happened there. They're pretty crusty inside. Throttle cable's not even really wanting to work too well, so those are going to need some help. I'm kind of surprised at how hack this thing really is. I mean, I didn't even splurge and put any zip ties on it to hold stuff together. Fast and loose. Gonna throw some WD-40 in here and get things starting to get loosened up. Pfft, that's nice. We just gave it a WD-40 enema. And even that one plug wire that's barely hanging in there. All kinds of spark. Well, I guess not everything could be sunshine and roses. Yeah, I don't think that would last too long. I mean, cracked carb boots are just minor details. All those cat tracks should add a few horsepower. It was always hard to start, from a dead cold start. Like, it would want to fire on one cylinder, and that was it. The other one would kind of pop every so often. You'd keep priming it, a few more times, and it would catch, but then it would end up cutting out. And what would happen is you'd have one cylinder warmed up and running, and the other cylinder would be straight up flooded. So it was kind of a vicious circle of, nothing helped trying to get that cylinder cleared out. You'd end up pulling the plugs, cranking it over to clear out the flooded cylinder, swapping the hot plug on I think it was the PTO side over to the mag side, fire it off again, and hopefully you were good to go at that point. And it was good to go as long as it was warmed up. Next day you start it all over again. There's some performance seeds down on the carb. Near clean room conditions for going over these carbs. You can't say that I'm neglecting this sled. I mean, I'm stuffing something in the carb boots to keep debris out. That'll buff out. You watch if this primer doesn't work. It's been sitting dry for, forever. I mean, I'm sure I didn't even know what ethanol-free gas was back at this point. And it'll probably work fine. You leave one of those Chinese-made ones for one season go dry, and they're shot. Now, if memory serves me right, this was a 1979 Ski-Doo Blizzard 5500, which was the first year for the Rotax 503 and this chassis and all that. I don't recall ever seeing that slotted brake rotor on any other of my sleds. I mean, I got a few. I need to go back and actually watch some of my videos for a reference. I don't remember hacking this thing that bad, but I guess we couldn't even splurge for electrical tape at that point. This thing had like an almost new Parts Unlimited belt on it, back when I bought it. Can't say I've ever changed it. Don't know if I ever will. I mean, we'll clean up some of that dirt, but look at that piston, that intake skirt there. It's clean as could be. I mean, I'd call it a tune-up, but since we're not even changing the spark plugs, I don't know what that would be. If there wasn't all that visible dirt, just sitting inside the carburetors, I would have actually tried to just pump the old gas out of the tank, throw some new gas in, and see if this thing would have drove out of its, resting place. I'm pretty confident this thing would have actually done it, but I mean, even I have a conscience. I couldn't just run all that grunge through the engine. So we got rid of the hood supports and bashed down the sharp edges. She's about race ready. I mean, other than the whole non-running part. It's amazing how much weight savings you can accomplish, just through not giving a crap. This is pretty much the story of the plague. There's like repairs upon repairs. I mean, rivets, welds. Everything's been thrown at the sled just to try and keep it in one piece. But somehow, against all odds, it's avoided the junkyard. Those leaf springs are actually off of the 1969 Evinrude, I believe. I forgot about this one. Apparently I didn't have the right size bolt, so we just bottomed out a longer one and never even tightened it up against the tunnel. Yeah, it should work. I mean, that's got to be good for at least 50 miles out on the trail before it wears itself through the tunnel of the next hole. Yeah, right. Now we got the double stack going with pieces of plywood, pre-tensioning the suspension spring. I mean, we already lost one on the other side, but not sure if we're going to find time to fix that or not. Carburetors actually came out surprisingly decent. Had some surface grunge on them, but nothing too bad. Still had residual oil on the inside, but no corrosion. So you could definitely tell I was in there before because of the oddball mounting flathead screw on there. Now, since I'm not really sure why this thing used to always catch on one cylinder first, and it would take a while for the second one to pop in, we went through and we synced the carburetors up. I mean, they weren't terrible, but they were slightly off. Only other thing I can maybe check is kind of equalize the two primer lines going to the carbs. Sometimes you have like the mag side may have a lot more direct route from the primer. Maybe it's getting more shot of fuel. I guess we'll see. I should probably vacuum some of the dirt out of there because I'm not sure if I'm going to run carburetor filters. Can't ever let anything sit around in the shop long. It starts growing boxes and parts on it. I mean, there's a few things that, the essentials you got to do to get this thing to run. I was thinking I was going to work on it and fix it up, but that's just not how this thing rolls. It thrives on the bare minimum. So we got the second-hand carb boots sealed up here. There was some minor cracking. Not too bad though. Good enough for this sled. Now, this isn't the cheapest, but this stuff is awesome. I mean, yeah, it says it's weather strip adhesive, but it's like a black all-purpose super contact cement. I mean, you can repair your shoes. You can use this stuff for repairing so many things. Highly recommend it. Definitely one of my new favorite tools. Can't believe it took 10 years to actually buy one. But makes short work of riveting on lost parts. Well, apparently we went directly from March back into February. And this is what we're left with. Now the battery died yesterday when I got this thing finally fired up, and I was going to drive it and put it away, but I think it ended up finding a plug halfway there and sort of conked out. So we're going to try and put it away today now that it's snowing. Got some nice sub 20 degree springtime weather. Try and get everything unfrozen. Primer sort of kind of works. Runs like a charm. carbides. Keep your standards low and your spirits high.